Hey there, Randy Walker, WorldTennisMagazine.com, and wanted to talk a little bit about the 1 Point Slam that was part of the opening week at the 2026 Australian Open. I was super excited when this was announced weeks ago. Just a really great, exciting pre-event, pre-main draw event that was pretty unique on the top level of professional tennis. 1 point tournaments, which is where every match is only 1 point, and in this case, points were started with a serve, and they did rock paper scissors to determine who was going to serve. I've seen past iterations of this where they just start off with a ground stroke feed, but a fascinating event that took place on Rod Laver Arena. I remember way back in the 1990s, Bob Ingersoll, who was the director of tennis at the Westside Tennis Club at Forest Hills, he would always host a 1 point tournament during, I believe it was the intersectionals, the USTA intersectionals. He had a big USTA junior tournament there every year, and they had like a banquet night and so forth. And he always hosted a 1 point tournament, and I had spoken to him and said, "Oh, that's really great. That's what a great idea, etc." And then he always invited me to play in the 1 point tournament and to come out. And I remember I wrote an article about it for USTA magazine, about the uniqueness of it. And, so that was my first introduction to 1 point tournaments. And, but this is the first time it's really been done on such a grand scheme at a Grand Slam tournament. And, what I also liked about it was that there were local qualifiers. So they had like a qualifying tournament for New South Wales and qualifying tournament for people in Victoria and for people in Queensland, etc. So you really had kind of a build up to this 1 point slam and leading into the Australian Open, etc. And if you see my video and my podcast about wild card tournaments, and then it builds up to the it's kind of a precursor, it's kind of an opening act to the main thing. So this is just another kind of grassroots way to pre-promote the Australian Open and get people excited about the start of the tournament. In this case, part of the opening week of the Australian Open, and that's another subject in that Tennis Australia has really stepped up their game as far as promoting the quote unquote opening week is what they call it. The qualifying tournament. This is the Australian Open's version of U.S. Open's Fan Week. And, they've really stepped that up. And I've been getting statistics from Tennis Australia where they were saying, last year's attendance on this day was 7,000 people came out to Melbourne Park. And this year it's 30,000. So, I mean, it's been a huge success, their opening week. I mean, they're doing a lot of things. They're taking a chapter out of taking a page out of what the USTA has done as far as music and really promoting the qualies and having these exhibition matches. And then, this is kind of their signature, highest profile, kind of event leading into the main draw, the 1 point slam, whereas the U.S. Open, had the mixed doubles tournament and so forth. So anyway, so I thought it was great. And Kia was a big sponsor of this, and the leading amateur had a chance of winning a new Kia car, which one of the amateurs won. And of course, the winner of the tournament got $1 million. That was quite enticing. So there was a mixture of these qualifiers, that were, amateurs. And then you had pro players. You had Yannick Sinner. You had Carlos Alcaraz, Nick Kyrgios, Iga Swiatek, Anna Smova, Coco Gauff, etc., all playing. And then they also threw in, some celebrities. I mean, when I was watching it on the YouTube feed, the Australian Open's YouTube feed this morning, I never heard of any of these Australian guys, but obviously they were popular down there. You had some media broadcasters. You had a jockey. You had a footy player, Australian rules football player. All playing out there. So all great fun and great buzz and etc. So it was entertaining to watch. It was entertaining to watch. The tennis was. I'll just be blunt, it was awful. I mean, it's only 1 point matches, so, what can you say? But there really were only like 2 good points, 2 good matches, of the entire time. And one of them was Daniel Medvedev playing against one of the local qualifiers, and they had a good rally. And then Medvedev, hit a lob. Over the amateurs, Jokic, I think his name was, and then he hit a tweener and almost passed the Medvedev at net, but Medvedev had to hit like a high backhand volley that he angled off the court for a winner, which was a great point. And then Iga Swiatek and Flavio Cobolli had a great rally, which Iga won. That was exciting. But otherwise, there were just terrible points. It was unforced errors. And, that's what kind of, was a little, I don't know, sketchy, whatever. Like Yannick Sinner's playing, and he's playing against Jordan Smith, who was the amateur who ended up winning the tournament. And, the pros would only get 1 serve, where the amateurs would get 2 serves. So you're Yannick Sinner, you have 1 serve, and you miss it. I mean, you're number 2 player in the world, but, the 2-time reigning Australian Open champion, the reigning Wimbledon champion, and you can't put a second serve. You can't put in 1 serve in the court against, an amateur player. That was just a little sketchy. So, anyway, I mean, I kind of got the sense that, like, the real big pros were just kind of in it for the fun, and they almost were kind of like embarrassed to try so hard, that they didn't want to be like, money hogs or whatever. I mean, obviously these players are making millions and millions of dollars, each year, but they were having fun and they were joking like, oh, I'm so nervous and so forth, but they were just kind of in it for the fun, whereas, the amateurs obviously were in it for the money. And, some of the lower ranked players like Pedro Martinez, who lost in the semifinals, he was kind of crushed when he lost his semifinal match. Anyway, so the tennis was, terrible, but there was excitement and it was a show and it's entertainment, it was entertainment. Everybody enjoyed it. Everybody was excited, etc. But it was a bit shocking that, this 29-year-old amateur, his name was Jordan Smith from Sydney. He won the tournament. He benefited from playing Yannick Sinner, and Sinner misses his first serve, and that's it. So he won the $1 million, and he beat, gosh, what was the girl's name? From Taiwan, Joanne Garland. No relation to Judy Garland, I don't think. She was ranked 118 in the world. She lost in the first round of qualifying. And she got to the final, also kind of, benefiting from some kooky errors from some pros and so forth. And she got to the final, and Jordan Smith won it. He won $1 million. So, I did some research on Jordan Smith. So he played 1 year of college tennis at Gonzaga University, the basketball powerhouse in Washington State. Played 1 year there. And his UTR is 11.96, but he has had an ATP ranking. He was ranked, 700 and, where do I have it here? I can't read my writing here with this glaring light. 748, and he was 11-14 in singles. He reached 3 ITF World Tennis Tour doubles finals. So he's no slouch. I mean, he was not a terrible player at all. 11.96 UTR now. I mean, that's, 11.96 UTR. That would be, he wouldn't be seeded in our Marty Fish Children's Foundation Tennis Championships 15K wildcard tournament. He wouldn't be seeded with an 11.96 UTR. So, certainly big upset. The last match he played on the Pro Tour was 2023 at the Canberra ITF World Tennis Tour Men's 25K tournament, losing to Tristan Schoolcade, another Australian, who's now top 100 or so in the world. But Jordan won $1 million, so he's all excited. He's going to buy a house in Sydney because he says the real estate values are really high there. Now he can buy a house with that $1 million and maybe buy a car, I guess he said. But so it's a good story. I mean, it's a good good headlines. And Kia got publicity, and Tennis Australia got some publicity. Great publicity, that transcended just sports. You saw a lot of news stories about, a 29-year-old amateur wins $1 million beating Sinner, So great publicity for Tennis Australia, and some nice buzz for the pre-Australian Open, which is gearing up for next week. So that's just my commentary on the 1 Point Slam. I got text messages today from board members of the Marty Fish Children's Foundation saying, hey, we should do this as a fundraiser for our Marty Fish Children's Foundation Tennis Championships 15K tournament, which raises money for at-risk kids here in Indian River County in Vero Beach, Florida. And, so I think a lot of people could take a lot of tournaments, on any level, whether it's a 15K tournament or a challenger or your local tournament, and do it at a fundraiser and do it as a fun tournament. You could have young people playing with old people, playing with pros, playing with amateurs, etc. And, it's just a great way to have some fun. Equality on the court. You can have men and women playing on the same side, playing at the same tournament against each other and so forth. So anyway, just a little commentary on that. So, this video recording and podcast, which I'm doing a simultaneous podcast, is sponsored by New Chapter Media, the global tennis publisher, the leading global tennis publisher of tennis books. You can buy books like The Pros, The Forgotten Era of Tennis, read about Rod Laver's competitive career between his 1962 Grand Slam and when he was reinstated into pro tennis in 1968. Or you can read The Secrets of Spanish Tennis by Chris Lewitt. Carlos Alcaraz did not win the 1 Point tournament, the 1 Point Slam, but he's had a pretty good career as well. So you can read about the methods and techniques and so forth that have helped Spanish tennis rise to the heights that it is now in pro tennis. So anyway, Randy Walker, WorldTennisMagazine.com. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Read my stories on WorldTennisMagazine.com, and over and out.